Welcome to another episode of Love of Pages. That was the most painful 20 seconds of my life. Trying to help out Stephen for the editing in the future.
You're saying that my dancing was painful? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying it was really painful not to laugh at both you doing your dancing and Jessica, who's very kindly flashing the countdown for me. As I'm counting down in my head, and I'm like, wait, I'm off from her counting. So I'm like, okay, we'll just go with her counting. It's fine. I quit.
Welcome to podcasting, everybody.
Welcome. So we are on part 2 of Moonraker. Mm-hmm. James Bond. I would happily show you my book, except for the fact that I forgot it at another location.
Oh.
There you go.
No, it's not gonna. Well, whatever. It's cool looking. It's a skull. There you go.
It's like the bullseye. Stevens is something else because they can't decide what to do for James Bond covers.
Mm-mm.
But so we are in part 2. Oh, housekeeping matters before we jump into it. Stephen, you had a housekeeping matter.
Yeah, no, we're on part 2 of this podcast for this very book, but this like way deep into the run of this very show because of the support of our Patreon supporters. We appreciate you guys, and you help us to be able to make content, to pay for the hosting things and whatever else we need to make this stuff happen. If you like anything that you've seen, and for some reason you have found yourself here but are not one of our Patreon supporters or followers, you can find us over at patreon.com/Geek Elite Media to help support what we're doing here.
Thank you all very much. Cheers to you.
I haven't poured it yet. Cheers!
My God! I did not expect that.
I'm gonna pour it.
I vote you go for it. Drink it from the bottle.
I just grabbed it real quick. No, champagne is hard to drink from the bottle. I've done it before.
No doubt. But okay, so actually I bought myself because I was like, Jessica's like, we should do so for everybody. Our cocktail hour of the evening for anybody who's just listening is champagne because it is the most consumed beverage in the James Bond franchise. Surprisingly, I know everybody knows him for his vodka martini. Champagne is the most consumed
because that's how he gets the ladies.
Ladies.
Actually, I think that's because this is what was traditionally served in like the 50s and 60s.
That's true.
Most instances, but. With that being said, Jessica suggested that we drink champagne tonight. And so I was like, okay, great. Except for the fact that I don't want to open an entire bottle of bubbly because I'm the only person who consumes champagne in this house. And 6 glasses of champagne in an evening before the champagne goes flat feels a little excessive.
I believe in you.
Easy peasy.
So I opted for a little single server guy. But I have never had champagne come with like a twist pull. Like it wasn't a traditional cork. Like it had all the internal mechanisms of a cork, except that it was plastic and you twisted it off and it was attached to the cap.
Huh.
I've never had that before.
Weird. I feel like we already perfected the easy off kind of cork situation with the ones that are held on with a little like wire cage thing that you twist.
Yeah.
And you push the top one. I don't even drink, and I know that's superior.
Yeah.
So I kept trying to pull on the cap, like thinking it was going to come off, and I'm like, "Why is this not?" And so, and like, just frustrated, like I went to rip and I heard it twist, and I was like, "Oh, it's a twist cap." So, still tasty, but
Domaine Carneros. Titinger, which I think I got this at our local wine shop too, because we have a local wine store cellar that I go to often. And I bought this, I think, we had people over, like family over, and we thought, well, maybe someone will want mimosas when we do breakfast, and it never happened, so I had bubbly, and I was like, you know what? I already have bubbly. Let's go ahead and do the bubbly.
I'm drinking a fine 2020 Gilbert, Arizona, a la Frigidaire. It's nice. It's got a nice bite, hints of chlorine.
For those of you listening and not watching, Stephen is consuming H2O. Because he's the responsible one in the bunch. It's fine.
It's okay.
Hey, I have my H2O too. I've got H2O with me when I'm drinking.
I do not have any H2O with me. I am just consuming the alcohol.
Your body is at least 70% H2O right now. You brought it with you.
There we go. I like it. I like the way you think, Steven. All right. So now that we've sufficiently bubbled up, are we ready to jump into Moonraker?
Absolutely.
Sure.
You're just
yeah, I'm good.
Hiccups from the bubbles?
Yes, bubbles. Yeah. No. So I don't drink champagne that often.
So when we last left Bond, he had just taken Hugo Drax for $15,000 in a game in the 50s, which feels like a ridiculous amount of money. I did not do the conversion on that. I don't know if anybody did the inflation.
I think it was also pounds, I think.
Yes. 15,000 pounds.
No, I gotta look it up. You guys continue. I'll find out.
So we open back and Drax gives him the very ominous, "It's been that quickly, Commander Bond." You know, a true Bond villain statement.
Mm-hmm.
But so we open back up the next day. Bond has a raging hangover after having drugged himself and consumed an entire bottle of champagne by himself on top of several other drinks.
Yeah, and also the speed, too. Don't forget the speed that he poured into his champagne glass.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He drugged himself.
I know, yeah.
But so he goes in to meet with M, and it's discovered that the same night that Bond took Drax for all that money at Blades, there was a murder at the site of the Moonraker project. Well, technically a bar just outside the site, where one of the German scientists shot the Scotland Yard.
Talon.
Another
security
intelligence services officer. The intelligence services officer who had been stationed with the project. And they still had somebody undercover there posing as Drax's personal secretary.
Mm-hmm.
So the German scientist did a murder-suicide, claiming it was over the private secretary. Nobody really believes that, but they don't know why else he would murder the guy. Everything just kind of seems odd. So they need to send somebody in who is bilingual in German, who can hold their own, and Bond is selected. So he gets special permission from the Prime Minister and everybody up and down the spectrum to go pretend to be part of the intelligence services. So he arrives. Weird welcome. Kind of warm, kind of cold. He discovers that Tillman, the dead agent.
Was it Tillman? Is that the name?
Yeah.
Tillman.
Wow. It really sounds like Talon in the audiobook. I'm going to be honest. Wow.
Look at it.
Got an eye in it.
Anyway. I can't use T-Dog again. But Agent T. I'm going to go with Agent T this time.
I'm okay with T-Dog being the way that you refer to everyone with a T name in everything that you can't pronounce across this whole podcast. I'm fine with this.
Just T-Dog. Everybody's T-Dog. So, Agent T. I like Agent T better. So, Agent T had found something that had concerned him the night before he was murdered. So, the next day, Bond is scouting out the place, reporting back that he's got funny feelings. But he's not really telling them about the funny feelings. He's like, hey, look into this for me. Look into that for me. Because something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
And he ends up taking a walk with Gala. Is that how I pronounce her name? How are they pronouncing her name?
I assume Gala.
They said her name some weird way. I know that her...
Gall.
Yeah, I feel bad about this one. I basically ignored her character in a lot of ways because she's going to be important, but Bond just always like refers to her like through other ways. Yeah.
He hardly calls her. He calls her the girl.
Yeah.
The girl. Quite often, the girl. She is a woman, sir. Can do taekwondo or something.
Yeah, she's a woman who's going to kick your butt. They go take a walk down to the beach, and there's an attempted murder on their lives.
Murder.
By blowing up part of the cliff, because that's subtle.
What a way to do it.
Right? That's subtle. And in the process of that whole day, Bond discovers that Keel, the butler, or not the butler, the assistant.
I don't know. I feel like I kept on calling him Kirby, and I don't know why.
I'm good with Kirby. So Kirby, K-Man. We'll go with K-Man. K-Man was snooping in Bond's room. Bond's pretty clear that it was on Drax's orders. Not sure if that's nefarious or not, because it could just be typical of overly controlling people and their security. But the part that I find interesting at the end of the section was the thing that he caught on to, that I was like, why aren't you catching on to this? The fact that there were only 3 place settings for dinner.
Yeah.
I don't know, the fact that everybody was significantly surprised that he walked through the door. Like, just, geez, James Bond, I think these people are trying to actively kill you. Like,
I think Drax is in on it.
And instead it's just like, that's weird. Dinner was only set for 3. What could that mean? Jesus Christ. Just like, dude, what?
I definitely feel like how I felt in certain parts of the Harry Potter series, where I'm like, my protagonist is so oblivious and I don't understand why.
Yeah, there
is a huge thing that I always notice anytime I'm reading, I think it's the 5th book of Harry Potter, when he goes and uses like the powder to talk to Sirius or whatever, and Sirius had given him a 2-way mirror to use. Like, nothing bad would have happened if freaking Harry Potter just used that freaking thing that he just got from Sirius.
Yep.
Sorry, it drives me nuts every time I read it. I'm like, what, you idiot.
Why aren't you using the tools provided to you? That's an entire other show.
Sorry. Never mind. I'm sorry. Tangent done.
Mostly done. But yes. So that's kind of the broad brush strokes of what occurred in this section. There's a lot of talk about science, about the fact that all of the 50, now 49 scientists have mustaches
for some reason.
No, they all have mustaches. There's the part where they just immediately throw the one guy under the bus. The guy who was snooping, like everyone is just like, yeah, no, must have been him.
Yeah,
and it was just way too easy.
It really,
these damn names. I'm giving up on these names right now.
Okay. Did you figure out the conversion? What's 15,000 pounds in 1950?
So I didn't just stop at 15,000 pounds in 1950. In today money, in dollars, that would be $672,000 and $672,555.
I mean,
adjusted for inflation and converted to dollars.
I would enjoy those funds.
I could use the crap out of those funds. I need to start gambling and cheating at it.
In the 50s.
I can also see why Drax was so pissed.
Yeah, it wasn't a little amount of money. There was one part in this book, or this section of the book, where I was like, you know what? Maybe this is just how Bond describes all people forever, and I shouldn't necessarily be offended when he has this, like, his shitty, like, male gaze moments for women. Because the way that he describes Drax in their, like, second time together, where he's like, no, this is a man's man. Like, he was feeling that guy. I was taken aback for a moment.
Like, whoa, Bond.
I do definitely think Bond, like, hypersexualizes everybody and everything.
And the mole on her right breast was said way too many times. She's been described as having a mole on her right breast. A lady with a mole on her right breast. That virginal lady with a mole on her right breast. I'm like, what the fuck?
There was a lot. There was a part. Yeah. I was walking around the house trying to, like, still listen to the audiobook while doing a few chores and stuff. It didn't have a Bluetooth headphone in for this part. And then it got to the point where he was just describing her, and I was like, you know what? Nope. No one needs to hear me listen to this right now.
No one needs to hear me listen to this garbage. Yeah, no, it's a lot. It's a lot. 1957 written by a white male. Like,
yeah. Also, I very much stand by the idea that if they had already started making these movies and everything, the author Ian Fleming was very much living vicariously through James Bond, and hoping that if these took off and were popular and continued to be popular, he would get offered all of these foods and different things that James Bond clearly loved. He's doing the Adam Sandler Netflix movie thing.
It definitely.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no. So, but it was interesting. So, Stephen, you made a comment before we started about having a couple of questions about this section.
Mm-hmm.
What were they?
Which section is that?
This part.
Okay, so one of those was definitely the part where, like, with his love of Drax the second time.
Okay.
I'm really wondering if the mustache thing and the allegiance stuff seems to be tied together, where they're like, no, yeah, those guys are, like, super freaking German. That's why they've got their weirdy mustaches. Then I really did wonder how this had gotten adapted into the movie. How was the mountain falling on them part? How was the scene where they just get into their skivvies and then are naked afterwards because a mountain fell on them?
Yeah, so
I don't even remember.
So part of the problem is that while Moonraker the book is deemed one of the better books, Moonraker the movie is a contender for the worst James Bond movie.
Really? And this is the introduction. Sorry, future spoilers for a movie from decades ago. This is the introduction of Jaws?
Yes.
And it's a bad one.
Yes.
It's not the introduction. No, he's in one before it.
Yeah.
Is he?
Because this is the last one that Jaws is in. Yeah, I think Jaws is in at least 2. He's in one before it where he's just bad the whole time. And in Moonraker, I very remember that Jaws ends up helping in the end.
Yeah.
Because Jaws fell in love. Yeah, he fell in love with, like, a tiny little Dutch woman. Like, blonde braids. Like, just...
So...
Interesting.
That's all I remember, though, about the movie is Jaws helping Bond. I feel like, is it the one where they go into space? Don't they, like, go into space?
I think so. I think it's the one that takes place, like, on a spaceship.
Yeah, like at the end. Like that's what the Moonraker is. Spoiler, sorry. But like it's not a rocket, it's
spaceship
to get to a spaceport.
But this is one of the
somehow sneakily it was one of the movies that made no sense too, because you're just like, in this book too, you're just like
like there's a ton more women in the movie than in the book.
Oh, really?
Really. So for one, the movie was produced in 1979 is when it came out.
That's where there's more women. That's like a hallmark of 70s films.
Exactly. So there's more women because I think if I'm remembering correctly, the head scientist is a woman.
Really?
Yeah.
I think so.
And the Moonraker isn't a rocket, it's a spaceship. Because while in 1957, when the book was written, rockets would have been the elite. Like,
it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. By 79, we have rockets. Like, you need a
rocket's been known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spaceship. And like, I keep getting hung up on the fact that Drax is described as a redhead because he is not a redhead in the movie. That much.
Yeah, I just saw that right now. He's like
scarred.
Yeah, he's got like a widow, like he's got like this like cool widow's peak hairline with like brown hair, like cool facial hair and stuff.
Yep.
It's weird. He sounded like he got beat up. Like he sounded like what's that the kid from that movie, was it Mask? From the 80s was the guy with like the long face with the red hair on top.
Oh, I think that was Mask.
Talking about.
Yeah, with Cher.
I don't know.
There was his mom in it.
Really?
I'm most positive it was Cher. God. It was one of her acting roles. That one and like what was it, Moonlight or something like that. I feel like it was Cher and Mask.
This is the character from that movie, Elizabeth. Sorry for everyone who's just an audio listener.
I mean, okay,
not great.
Yeah,
but it's based off of a real disease, elephantitis, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, elephantitis. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, in the movie, he's not really disfigured at all. There really isn't anything about this whole mustache thing that I remember.
So that comes to nothing then.
Like, well, I think in the book, the mustache thing is probably a form of escape plan disguise, would be my guess. Because you could just shave off the mustache and then you don't look like the same person anymore. Like, think about how many people shave off facial hair and you're like, who are you?
Yeah.
I did have a big question for that part. Like, I shouldn't say a big question. I found it odd that the guy was like, well, this is what I chose to do. When James Bond's like, well, why not a jumper with a number? All he had to say was like, yeah, they can change jumpers. They could trade jumpers if they wanted to. They can't trade facial hair. Why was it that he chose to say, this is what I chose to do?
Because he's a narcissist.
I mean, that part I agree with. I just didn't feel like it moved anything forward for me understanding the character.
I think the whole point is for it to be so blatantly a dismissal and lie that it builds it up to something important. Like, clearly the mustaches mean something if he's not willing to like give a real explanation.
Yep.
Okay. I'll accept that. Also, the guy's name, it was like Kreb?
Kreb?
Is that the name of the guy who was digging around?
So I think Kreb's character gets replaced by Jaws in the movie.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
I don't know if Kreb's going to have the girlfriend that Jaws has in the movie. Because yes, that's like that's the big thing about this movie for the Bond franchise is that Jaws becomes... So Jaws is Jaws because he's got sterling silver,
he's tall,
iron.
but he has like iron something teeth. And he can
jumpers.
He can bite through steel.
Yeah.
See, that was never how that works at all.
Oh no, it's not. But like,
it's not the strength of the bites, the chompers that does it. It's the strength of the pushing force for the jaws.
Anyway.
I mean, it's what he could do.
Jaws has metal teeth. He bites through steel things. He ends up with a girlfriend, which makes him turn his life around, and he ends up helping Bond save the world in the last minute.
Mm-hmm.
That's how this goes down in the movies. I don't think that's how this goes down in this book.
I do not look forward to this movie. You guys have both said that apparently we're watching this after we finish reading it, and I don't want that.
We're gonna do it, and you're gonna have a fun time. Because although it's weird, it still is a fun time to watch.
It's kind of like watching a train wreck.
Yeah.
I think that's how you'll feel about it. I like James Bond movies, and Roger Moore's actually a really good James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
He's not one of my favorites, but he's, definitely not the worst. But I think, because it really is of its time.
Yes.
It's definitely going to be like watching a train wreck.
Yeah.
I feel like now at this point, and this isn't even just a commentary about this book or anything, but going back to watch all James Bond stuff is like going to watch Austin Powers where they weren't aware. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only worse, because Austin Powers, you can at least be like, oh, well, it was a comedy. It was supposed to be.
Austin Powers is intentionally pointing these things out.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where James Bond is very serious.
Yeah.
So
I don't.
A lot of the James Bond stuff doesn't age well.
Mm-mm.
At all. But Moonraker, the book so far, at least for me, has definitely been better than the movie was.
I don't dislike it as my first Bond book, and realistically one of my first Bond experiences ever, because I've seen all of 2 movies. It's not awful. I do like the idea of it being the time capsule that it is, where they talk about the fact there's going to be quote unquote television screens as part of the surveillance and everything. It's the high tech stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting to go back to. I can almost read it like how I read a classic pulpy sci-fi novel.
Yeah. Fair enough. Just how do you feel about it?
But
she's on her 6th glass of this for anyone who's just listening
I'm
right
on
now.
My 2nd glass. Calm down. And they're small. Champagne glasses are small. Anyway.
They fit 187 milliliters.
Yeah. Haha. Honestly, I'm skimming through this.
You're not deep in it.
I cannot focus on it. I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's his voice or what, but I find myself skimming through it and then having to go back to be like, wait, what's happening? During the whole explosion scene, I was really I thought he was saying he was climaxing. I was just like, what the happening? I was literally like, what's going on? And oh no, an actual explosion.
It did take me a second during that part. So you're listening to the audiobook, Jess?
No, I'm reading it on my Kindle. And that's why I prefer paper. I'm reading it on my Kindle. So I don't know if there's something about me reading it on my Kindle that's different than holding a book, but I find myself never being able to focus on Kindle books. So, but I feel like there is an issue with the voice in it, and it's just I get what it was. It was a weird transition, and there's a lot of weird transitions, but she's talking and she's like, I'm in the Secret Service, and he's like, the Secret Service, and then the bomb went off and then did something, and I'm like, what the hell is with all these metaphors? What is happening?
I do think in that scene, that's supposed to be the way it is. I think it's supposed to be that kind of jarring confusion, what just happened?
I know, but it's such an interesting way to be oh, it's confusing because nobody knows what's going on right now because an explosion just went off above their faces. Oh, okay. I got it. But I was still wait, what? And it just didn't help that I was okay, they're swimming and they're half naked and he's trying to sneak kisses onto her and she's getting pissed, but she's also kind of excited, and then boom, and I'm like, what happened?
I during the scene where the explosion happens, I did feel like, wow, this happened really suddenly. And after the fact, I thought, oh no, it's that way because it's that way. It is so sudden. But about the kiss part, did anyone else just imagine him like he's like shoo shoo shoo? Because the way that she describes, he's very far away. She like in her voice, she said, I forget what the word was, but she used a specific word that made it sound like he was quite far away. And then
like
suddenly
100 yards or something.
Yeah, like it seemed.
At first, she didn't know where he was because he was completely underwater, and then all of a sudden he like pops up like right here.
Hello.
Yeah,
Dives off like a dolphin.
Yeah, it was like a Free Willy situation. Like he was like smooches.
Like this is literally the motion I kept seeing in my head.
So that's what I wanted to see if you guys also felt like in your imagination he was a dolphin.
Yes,
I'm glad you did.
Nope. That's definitely the like impression you're supposed to get. Is like
he's so fast.
Else, I am super annoyed by the fact that she hasn't mentioned the Black Book to Bond.
What's the Black Book?
So we find out that she's created a peephole in the door.
Yes.
In her room and her office and Drax. And she does all these calibrations for the wind and the weather. And she puts them up and he's like, and then he always double checks them and puts them in this little black book. And she talks about like, looking at her fingers being like, can I lift it? Which I'm like, okay, yeah, like try and lift the black book, find out what's in it. But then I'm like, Ben Bond lays all these suspicions out for you that maybe Drax is involved somewhere, and you don't think to go, oh yeah. And he's also like rechecking all my weather stuff, but not correcting anything, just writing it in his little black book.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's also suspicious of him too. She's like, yes, no, I assume they were checking my room, so I didn't talk to him about the guy digging through my room or anything. Like, tell the other guy who's in here, who's replacing a person who was killed, who's clearly investigating the things.
Right? I'm like, why have you not put together that the black book matters? Like, I'm sorry, anybody who keeps a black book that is not seen by anybody else, like, something shady's going up. Like, maybe it's a good shady, maybe it's a bad shady. You don't know, though. It's definitely shady.
Mm-hmm. No, there's a lot, but okay.
I was just saying, you don't keep private information that's not somehow shady.
Yeah. I have questions, and it also makes me wonder about all these Bond fans out there, if this is the quality of the writing.
Most Bond fans aren't fans of the books.
Yeah.
Most Bond fans have never read the books.
Damn. Cool. That's put that on the dust jacket.
Most Bond fans have never read books. Ooh,
read the books.
Dang.
That's the part that's going to go viral, isn't it?
Thank you.
That's why I can't drink on an empty stomach, people.
We told you to eat. Your Hufflepuff told the Slytherin that she needs to eat her food.
It's two Hufflepuffs.
No. Yeah, two Hufflepuffs, sorry. The Hufflepuffs.
It's fine. It's fine. I just missed an article. It's fine.
But no, all in all, I'm still enjoying the experience. Like, I'm not mad that I'm having to listen to this book in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, that's good, at least. That's good.
Watch out for my pick later. Coming for you.
It is. So, any predictions on the last third? How is Bond going to save the day? What's the overall plan?
He's going to Steve Rogers this whole thing. He's on the rocket and he steers it astray because they've clearly done some things where they've talked about ways to disable it. I think the fin things are important in some way, shape, or form. I think it doesn't have the fins. The fins 100% melt off.
Okay. So what do you think the goal of the bad guys are? Like, what are they actually going to try and do with the rocket?
I don't know, because you guys have put some stuff out there for the movie where apparently there's like a space station or
I
something.
I don't even remember what was so bad about the space station. I just remember, now we're on a space station.
It's a James Bond villain. They clearly have they have a cannon, a laser cannon that's going to cut a portion of the planet out.
I tell you, all the old James Bond films, I don't think I know half of them, like, exactly why the bad guy was the bad guy, like, what was so bad about them. Like, the newer ones, like the Pierce Brosnan ones, it was very obvious. This guy is trying to turn a satellite into, like, a little magnifying glass to kill all the ants, and we are the ants. Like, that was obvious. But, like,
is that really one of the plots?
Yes, it is, and I love it. It's like, what is it? That one's not The World Is Not. It was the one. It was the last Pierce Brosnan one. It was Die Another Day. Yes. One with Madonna on it.
Yeah,
that one was he turned a satellite into a reflective mirror to like burn alive. It's very intense.
Basically, it was the next massive weapon because you could laser point and like blow up a city, or even just like, a city square block if you needed to.
And it wasn't even like that weird of a concept because
half at the equator.
Yeah. And Greeks tried to do that on ships too. They would put like a bunch of mirrors and try to burn a ship from afar. Like it's.
I just don't understand why is James Bond seen as being so masculine? This is all the same stuff as anime. Like you got big booby ladies everywhere, weird stuff where a bad guy is very obvious about everything that they're doing. And then, like, so someone has metal teeth. That's anime, guys. That's anime.
That's not even the weirdest one.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not the weirdest.
There's the little guy with the hat that, for whatever reason, can cut through everything.
So, like,
silver rimmed hat.
People's heads off.
There's the guy with the golden gun, guys. In which you just get hit by the golden gun and you're dead. It doesn't matter where you get hit by it, you're dead. That's never freaking explained, by the way.
Or there's Goldfinger, who just paints everybody gold when he kills them.
Yeah. Goldfinger, which is like the best freaking Bond theme ever.
This is all anime. I like everything you have said only makes this further sound like anime.
Like, not only that, there's a lot of talking before the fight scenes, too. Just like anime.
So, see, Stephen, you would love Bond films.
Nope. I don't watch all the big booby lady animes. And this
okay, like, to be fair, it's the older ones that are all the big booby ladies. The later on ones that the ladies do have jobs and they are smart and they're snarky and sarcastic occasionally, but they do end up having sex with Bond.
And sometimes they're the villain.
Yeah, and sometimes they're the villain. Yeah.
Well, we're feeling very equality.
Yeah, I want to be clear. Nothing wrong with being a big booby lady. You do you. Nothing wrong with that inherently. It's the way that the people are portrayed and sexualized and present only for sexualization in the stories.
I'm just going to go with the big booby lady.
Big booby lady. I mean, at least these ones move realistically, whereas the anime ones like just are like made of jello.
Just like I can do a somersault and they never move.
That happens in real life to some people.
False.
No, I mean people with bad implants.
Even then, gravity takes over.
There's a little bit of give.
But yeah, no. So thank you for having brought this one up, though, because the Bond book is fun.
Oh, good. So yeah, no. I, however, predict that they're trying to blow up the Hague.
Okay.
I think that's the purpose of the weather movement. Is that they're not actually going to calibrate it to hit the sea. They want to calibrate it to hit the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And start a world war.
Yeah.
I'll be curious. Now, do you think this is actually this man's face? Or is he someone else entirely? And he takes it off the mask.
I think it's his face. I think the facial hair is an attempt to disguise, because I think if you were to shave his face, he would be recognizable.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that one. So.
All right. Any other last thoughts, considerations?
Mm-mm.
Mole
Whoa.
on right booty.
Jess is on her 7th glass of champagne
Oh
right
my
now.
god, it's the
For you
second
audio
one.
listeners, she just poured another.
I did not. Don't you lie. I poured one. Through this podcast, I did pour another. It's my second one. This will be my last one.
She's flipping me off right now.
I am not. Oh my god.
You do realize the more you protest, the more he's just gonna keep feeding the cycle.
I know.
This is the Slytherin informing the Hufflepuff of how this stuff works. But all right. Stephen, where can people find you to discuss big booby ladies and anime?
Oh, God. You can find me all across the internet on all different forms of social media as Peppermint Gentleman. You can also find me on my website, www.peppermintgentleman.com.
And Jessica, where can people find you to commiserate about the plights of Hufflepuffs?
You can find me on Twitter as JM Bailey Writes.
And you can find me with the rest of Geek Elite Media at Geek Elite Media, Facebook page /Geek Elite Media, and our website, geekelitemedia.com. This is really hard because I haven't eaten anything. Archived episodes of this podcast and other podcasts are on geekelitemedia.com or your favorite podcatcher. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us so other people can find us. As Stephen said at the top of the hour, please join us on our Patreon if you have anything that you can give to help us keep going and keep this podcast running. But until next time, this is the Love of Pages, reminding you to keep turning those pages and always remember to geek out.
Geek out.